The elders warned them about humans, but no one listens until it was too late. The crystalline spires of the Galactic Council stretched toward twin suns. Within the Grand Assembly Hall, representatives from 300 species gathered beings of scale and light metal and shadow, unified under ancient laws. Elder Vorin stood at the center podium, his 4 ancient eyes scanning the assembly. "I come before you with a warning," Vorin began. "A new species has begun reaching for the stars. They call themselves humans." Ripples of laughter echoed through the hall. Grand Counselor Serana, her silver skin gleaming, rose from her seat. "Honored Elder, surely this assembly has more pressing matters than primitive newcomers." Observe their trajectory. The air shimmered, displaying a blue-green world. 100 years ago, they traveled by animal and wind. 50 years ago, they split atoms. Today, they have settlements beyond their home world. "What makes these humans noteworthy?" Counselor Thane interjected. "Their adaptability defies all patterns," Vorin replied. "They improvise, they turn disasters into opportunities. Most dangerous of all, they refuse to accept limitations as permanent." Serana laughed. "They sound like children playing with forces beyond comprehension." "That division is their strength," Vorin warned. 15,000 wars in 500 years have taught them survival through chaos. They are whatever they need to be. Even if your concerns have merit, they are centuries from posing any challenge. Serana dismissed. Vorin's 4 eyes blinked slowly. "When they arrive at our borders, and they will arrive, remember this moment." 6 months after Vorin's warning, Admiral Katherine Hayes stood in the observation deck of the starship Endeavour, watching alien vessels dance between the stars like metallic butterflies. At 34, Kate had risen through Earth's ranks not through politics, but through an uncanny ability to see patterns others missed. First time seeing a real alien space station, Commander Ryan Mitchell approached, his weathered face creased with concern. At 36, Ryan had been Kate's anchor through every dangerous mission, the practical voice that kept her boldness from becoming recklessness. "First time seeing our future," Kate replied, studying the massive structure ahead. The Galactic Council's Border Station 7 was a marvel of engineering, its spiraling arms extending for kilometers in perfect symmetry. Dr. Emily Carter joined them at the viewport, her scientific instruments recording everything. "Initial scans confirm what we suspected," the 30-year-old researcher reported. "Their technology is centuries ahead of ours in refinement, but oddly, stagnant." "Stagnant how?" Kate asked. "No innovation signatures. Everything follows established patterns. It's like they stopped inventing 300 years ago." Kate filed this observation away. Innovation meant adaptation. Stagnation meant vulnerability. The communication array crackled. "Human vessel Endeavour, you are cleared for docking. Prepare for cultural orientation and species evaluation." Ryan grimaced. "Evaluation? Like we're specimens." "We are," Kate said simply. "The question is whether we're dangerous specimens or harmless ones." The docking bay of Border Station 7 could have housed a small city. Hundreds of beings moved with practiced efficiency, some floating, others walking on appendages Kate couldn't have imagined. The Endeavour looked like a child's toy among the gleaming alien vessels. Station Commander Velok greeted them personally, his elongated frame draped in ceremonial robes. "Welcome to the edge of civilization," he said, the translation device rendering his words in perfect English. "I am told you seek membership in our alliance." "We seek understanding," Kate replied carefully. "Earth wishes to take its place among the galactic community." Velok's expression, what Kate could read of it, seemed amused. "Of course, all species wish this. Come, the Evaluation Council awaits." They were led through corridors that seemed to pulse with organic light past chambers containing technologies that defied human comprehension. Other beings stopped to stare at the human delegation, some with curiosity, others with what appeared to be pity. "They're looking at us like we're lost," Ryan muttered. "No," Emily whispered, checking her readings. "They're looking at us like we're irrelevant." The evaluation chamber was a sphere of pure crystal suspended in space with a view of the stars beyond. 3 council representatives sat in floating chairs, each a different species, each radiating an aura of bored superiority. "Humans of Earth," announced the lead evaluator, a being whose skin shifted through spectrum of blues. "Present your technological achievements for assessment." Emily stepped forward, activating a holographic display of human innovations. Nuclear power, quantum computing, genetic medicine, space travel, humanity's greatest triumphs, reduced to data points. The evaluators exchanged glances. Primitive but adequate for a developing species, the blue-skinned being declared. "Your advancement rate suggests potential for eventual membership in perhaps 2 to 3 centuries." Kate felt something cold settle in her stomach. "We were hoping to contribute sooner." "Contribute what?" asked the second evaluator, a crystalline entity, whose voice resonated like struck metal. "Your weapons are chemical projectiles. Your ships require constant fuel. Your computation relies on electrical switches. What could you possibly offer?" Emily's scientific training warred with her human pride. "Perhaps a different perspective." The third evaluator, whose form seemed to shift between states of matter, made a sound that might have been laughter. "Perspective? How charming. Commander Velok, please escort our guests to the waiting quarters. We will draft a preliminary containment. Excuse me, guidance protocol." As they were led away, Kate caught sight of a young alien in the corridor, barely more than a child by his species standards. Unlike the others, his eyes held not dismissal, but fascination. When their gazes met, he quickly looked away, but not before Kate saw something that gave her hope curiosity. The waiting quarters assigned to the human delegation were luxurious by Earth standards walls that responded to thought furniture that adapted to comfort food synthesizers that created perfect nutrition. But luxury, Kate realized, was just another form of cage. "Look at this," Ryan said, manipulating the room's controls. The walls became transparent, revealing the station's central plaza, where dozens of species mingled freely. "They can reshape matter with a thought travel between stars, like we drive to the grocery store and communicate across galaxies instantly." Emily was deep in analysis, her portable laboratory spread across one wall. "Ryan's right. Their technological baseline is extraordinary. Gravity manipulation, quantum entanglement networks, atomic-level manufacturing." She paused, frowning. "But none of it is new." "What do you mean?" Kate asked. "I mean their oldest patents are the same as their newest ones. They perfected these technologies centuries ago and then stopped. No improvements, no innovations, no revolutionary leaps." Kate moved to the window, watching a massive council warship maneuver with impossible grace. The vessel was beautiful, elegant, and completely standardized, identical to 3 others she could see from this vantage point. "They're showing off," she realized. "What?" Ryan joined her at the window. "This whole parade. The identical ships, the synchronized movements, the perfect formations. They want us to see their power." Kate's pilot instincts recognized the display for what it was, but they're also showing us their weakness. "How is overwhelming technological superiority a weakness?" Emily asked. "Because it's predictable." Kate traced patterns in the air following the ship's movements. Every vessel follows the same flight path. Every formation uses the same geometry. Every maneuver is textbook perfect. Ryan nodded slowly. "In a dogfight, predictable is dead. In a war," Kate added, "predictable is extinct." Their insight was interrupted by a soft chime. The door opened to admit Commander Velok, accompanied by a being Kate recognized from the evaluation, the blue-skinned counselor. "Humans." Velok began formally. Allow me to present Council Assessor Dralith. He brings word of your evaluation's progress. Dralith's shifting blue skin patterns seem to indicate satisfaction. The Council has reviewed your species' capabilities. You show promise, but significant gaps remain in your development. What kind of gaps? Kate asked, keeping her voice neutral. Military technology primarily. Your weapons are crude, your defenses primitive. Should you achieve membership in our alliance, you would require extensive protection from more advanced threats. Emily stepped forward. What threats? Dralith and Valok exchanged a look that seemed almost conspiratorial. The galaxy is not always peaceful, Valok said carefully. There are conflicts that arise. Pirates, rogue species, ancient enemies that occasionally stir. The Devourer, Emily said quietly. Both aliens went very still. Dralith's skin patterns shifted to darker hues. Where did you hear that name? Old transmissions we intercepted during our journey here. Fragments of historical records. History, Dralith said firmly. Long past, no longer relevant. But Kate had been watching their body language, the slight tension, the way Valok's hands moved closer to his ceremonial weapon. It's not past, is it? It's coming back. Impossible, Valok said quickly. The Devourer was driven beyond the galactic rim centuries ago. Our defenses are standardized, Kate interrupted. Predictable, based on fighting the same threat the same way your ancestors did. Dralith's patterns shifted to what Kate was beginning to recognize as anger. You presume to lecture us on threats you cannot comprehend? Your species has barely left its homeworld. Our species, Kate said quietly, has been preparing for threats we can't comprehend for our entire existence. It's called survival. After the aliens left, the humans sat in uncomfortable silence. Finally, Ryan spoke. They're scared. Terrified, Emily agreed, and they have no idea what to do about it. Kate was already making plans. Then we show them what humans do when we're scared, which is... Kate's smile was sharp as a blade. We get creative. That night, as the station's artificial cycle dimmed to simulate evening, Kate slipped out of their quarters. Her pilot training had taught her to navigate by instinct, and every ship, even alien ones, followed certain logical patterns. She found what she was looking for in a maintenance section, a young alien hunched over a data tablet, watching what appeared to be human entertainment broadcasts. The same being who had stared at her in the corridor. Hello, Kate said softly. The young alien, barely more than a teenager, startled so violently he nearly dropped his tablet. When he saw Kate, his large eyes went even wider. You shouldn't be here, he whispered in accented English. If security finds you, then we'd better make this quick. Kate sat down beside him. I'm Kate. What's your name? Tren, he replied hesitantly. I'm studying to be a council analyst. What are you watching? Tren looked ashamed. Human cultural broadcasts. They're fascinating. So different from our structured narratives. Kate glanced at the tablet. It was showing an old Earth movie, something about a small group of rebels fighting impossible odds against a vast empire. What do you find fascinating about it? The chaos. Tren said immediately, then looked worried, as if he'd revealed something forbidden. Your people don't follow proper procedures. They improvise, adapt, create solutions that shouldn't work, but do. It's what, Tren's voice was barely a whisper. It's what we used to be like, before the Great Unification, before the rules. Kate felt pieces clicking into place. Your people gave up innovation for stability. Tren nodded miserably. 300 years of peace, no wars, no conflicts, no chaos, but also no growth. We've become exactly what the Devourer expects us to be. Tell me about the Devourer. Tren's fear was palpable. Ancient enemy. Hive mind. It learns from its encounters, adapts to defeat any strategy. It was driven away because every species fought together, but now every species fights the same way. The Council believes their standardized defenses are our strength. But what if... Trent stopped looking around nervously. What if they're our weakness? Kate finished. Trent nodded. If the Devourer returns, it will know exactly how we'll respond. Every tactic, every formation, every weapon. We've made ourselves perfectly predictable. Kate stood up. Then it's a good thing humans don't believe in perfection. The attack came at dawn, or what passed for dawn on a space station between stars. Alarms wailed through Border Station 7 as proximity sensors detected 3 unidentified vessels dropping out of hyperspace. Kate was already dressed and moving before the emergency lights finished cycling. Combat instincts died hard, and her pilot's brain was already calculating vectors and possibilities. She found Ryan and Emily in the corridor, both looking alert despite the early hour. Pirates! Commander Velok's voice echoed through the station's communication system. All civilians to emergency shelters. Defense force to battle stations. Through the nearest viewport, Kate could see the attacking ship's sleek, predatory designs that moved with obvious hostility. But more interesting were the Council's defending vessels. 6 heavy cruisers moving in perfect formation, their approach as predictable as a textbook diagram. They're following standard defensive pattern Omega 7, came a voice behind them. Trent had appeared in the corridor, his uniform marking him as junior analyst. Perimeter engagement coordinated fire zones, systematic target elimination. Will it work? Emily asked. Trent's expression was grim. Against these pirates, probably. But watch how they do it. Kate was already watching. The Council ships moved like dancers in a ballet, beautiful, synchronized, and completely predictable. The pirates, clearly outmatched but experienced, began evasive maneuvers that suggested they'd faced Council tactics before. Request permission to join the defense, Kate said suddenly. Velok, who had arrived to oversee the civilian evacuation, looked incredulous. Your vessel is unarmed and primitive. We would only get in the way. Kate finished. I know, but this is a training exercise for us. Combat observation. Ryan caught on immediately. Valuable experience for future Earth defense planning. After a moment's hesitation, Velok nodded. Emergency authorization granted, but maintain distance and do not engage. 20 minutes later, the Endeavour hung at the edge of the battle zone, its sensors recording everything. Kate sat in the pilot's seat, her hands steady on controls that felt primitive compared to alien technology. Council formation is holding, Emily reported from the science station. Pirates are taking heavy damage, but they're learning, adapting their attack patterns. Of course they are, Kate murmured. Any predator learns from its prey. The battle was indeed going as Trent predicted. The Council ships, with their superior firepower and coordination, were systematically dismantling the pirate vessels. But Kate noticed something else. The pirates' final desperate maneuver wasn't random. They're not trying to win, she realized. They're testing response times. What? Ryan leaned over her shoulder. Look at their target selection. They're not going for maximum damage. They're probing defensive reactions. This isn't a raid. It's reconnaissance. As if to confirm her analysis, the surviving pirate ship suddenly broke off, fleeing toward hyperspace. The Council vessels moved to pursue in perfect formation, maintaining their tactical integrity, even in victory. Endeavour returned to dock. Velok's voice came over the comm. Exercise concluded. But Kate was already moving. Not yet. Ryan, prepare emergency burn. Emily, full power to sensors. Kate, what are you... The pirate ship that had fled suddenly returned, dropping out of hyperspace directly behind the pursuing Council vessels. Kate had seen the same maneuver in Earth's naval history, the false retreat, the sudden reversal. Ambush, she transmitted on all frequencies. Council vessels break formation. But the Council ships committed to their pursuit formation couldn't react quickly enough. The pirate ship launched a spread of torpedoes that would have crippled at least 2 vessels. Kate didn't think. She acted. The Endeavour shot forward its primitive but nimble design, allowing it to accelerate faster than the massive Council ships. Kate threw the ship into a spiraling dive that would have been impossible in atmosphere using the station's gravity well to slingshot around the massive structure. "Kate!" Ryan shouted as G-forces pressed them into their seats. "Trust me." Kate's hands flew over the controls, plotting a course that violated every regulation in 3 different spacefaring civilizations. The Endeavour intercepted the torpedo spread not with weapons, they had none, but with physics. Kate released the ship's entire supply of emergency beacon pods, each one broadcasting false heat and electromagnetic signatures. To the torpedo's primitive guidance systems, it looked like 6 additional targets had suddenly appeared. Half the weapons veered off course, pursuing the decoys. The remainder lost lock entirely, as Kate spun the Endeavour through a maneuver that created a sensor shadow. The Council ships, finally free to react, destroyed the confused pirate vessel with prejudiced efficiency. In the aftermath, Kate found herself facing a very different kind of evaluation. The same crystal chamber, but now the 3 assessors looked at her with something approaching respect. "Explain your actions," demanded the blue-skinned Dralith. Kate stood straight. The pirates' retreat was false. Standard tactical deception make your enemy think they've won, then strike when they're pursuing. "How did you know?" "Because it's what I would have done." The crystalline assessor leaned forward. "Your maneuver violated 17 regulations governing spacecraft operation in defended space." "Yes." "You had no weapons, no shields, no realistic chance of survival if your gambit failed." "Correct." The shifting assessor spoke for the first time. "Why did you risk your lives for our ships?" Kate was quiet for a moment. "Because that's what allies do." The 3 assessors exchanged looks. Finally, Dralith spoke. "Your species fights chaotically. We prefer creatively. It should not have worked. Your ship is centuries behind our technology." "Technology doesn't win battles," Kate said quietly. "Thinking does." Later, as the human delegation returned to their quarters, they found Tren waiting for them. His large eyes were bright with something Kate was beginning to recognize as hope. "The Council ship's response time to your warning was 12.7 seconds, he said excitedly. "Standard protocol calls for 8-second response to threat alerts." "So," Ryan asked. So they hesitated. For 4.7 seconds, experienced Council officers had to process a tactical situation they'd never encountered before. Tren looked at Kate with something approaching awe. "You showed them something new." Kate nodded thoughtfully. "And the pirates?" "Preliminary analysis suggests they were testing our defenses. This was one of 7 similar attacks across the Outer Rim in the past month." Emily felt the implications hit her like cold water. "They're probing for weaknesses." "The Devourer is coming," Kate said quietly, "and it's learning how you fight." Tren's expression grew grave. "The Council won't listen. They believe their standardized defenses are perfect." Then, Kate said with a smile that didn't reach her eyes, "It's a good thing humans specialize in imperfection." 3 weeks after the pirate incident, Kate found herself standing in the observation deck of Border Station 7, watching a stream of refugee ships arriving from the Outer Rim. Each vessel carried the same story: silent attack ships that moved like living things, entire colonies, simply gone. 15 worlds in the past month. Dr. Carter reported, her voice clinical, but her hands trembling slightly. No distress signals, no survivors, no debris. Just empty space where civilizations used to be. Commander Mitchell joined them, his face grim. The Council's calling it unexplained phenomena, refusing to acknowledge what it really is. "The Devourer," Kate said quietly. "But the Council's defense grid," Emily began, "is designed to fight the Devourer as it was 3 centuries ago," Kate interrupted. Not as it is now. Through the viewport, Kate could see the Council's response: more standardized patrols, tighter formations, increased communication protocols. Everything more organized, more predictable, more exactly what the Devourer would expect. Admiral Hayes. The voice belonged to Tren, who had become their unofficial liaison with the younger generation of Council members. His usual eager demeanor was subdued. Council assessment requested your presence in Emergency Session Chamber 7. The emergency chamber was smaller than the Grand Evaluation Spheres, a functional space designed for crisis management rather than ceremony. Around the circular table sat representatives from 12 species, their expressions ranging from concern to barely concealed panic. Grand Counselor Serana was present via hologram, her silver features sharp with authority. Admiral Hayes, your species' unconventional approach to the recent pirate engagement has been noted. Thank you, Counselor. Do not mistake acknowledgement for approval, Serana continued coldly. Your reckless maneuvers endangered 3 Council vessels and violated fundamental safety protocols. Kate kept her expression neutral. The maneuvers saved 3 Council vessels. Through luck, not skill. Through adaptation, Kate corrected. The pirates used tactics your forces weren't prepared for. Assessor Drelith leaned forward. Are you suggesting our defense protocols are inadequate? I'm suggesting they're predictable. The chamber erupted in offended protests. Serana's image flickered with digital distortion as her anger spiked. Predictable? Our defensive strategies have maintained galactic peace for 3 centuries. Against threats that followed rules, Kate replied calmly. What happens when your enemy doesn't? The Devourer follows no rules, said a voice from the chamber's entrance. Elder Vorin entered slowly, his 4 ancient eyes reflecting the weight of terrible knowledge. It learns. It adapts. It turns strength into weakness. Serana's expression hardened. Elder, we've discussed this. The Devourer was defeated centuries ago. Driven away, Vorin corrected, and now it returns stronger and more cunning. These attacks on the Rim worlds, they're not random. They're systematic analysis of our defenses. Impossible, another council member declared. Our intelligence networks show no signs of... Alarms suddenly screamed through the station. Red lights bathed the chamber as emergency protocols activated. A communication officer's voice cut through the chaos. Emergency alert: massive, unidentified contacts dropping out of hyperspace. Configuration unknown. Intent hostile. Through the chamber's viewport, space itself seemed to tear open. What emerged defied easy description vessels that looked grown, rather than built their surfaces rippling with organic patterns. At their center, a ship the size of a small moon, its hull pulsing with veins of dark energy. Devourer scout fleet, Vorin whispered. And a world ship. Kate's blood turned to ice as she counted the enemy vessels. 6 Council defense cruisers faced 17 Devourer craft, including the massive world ship. How long until reinforcements arrive? Standard response time is 43 minutes. Drelith replied, his blue skin patterns cycling through panic configurations. Kate looked at the tactical display. They don't have 43 minutes. On the bridge of the Endeavor, Kate's crew prepared for the impossible. Through the viewports, they could see the Council ships moving into their standard defensive formation, a perfect textbook response that would have been admirable in any other situation. They're beautiful, Emily said quietly, watching the synchronized maneuvers of the Council fleet. They're doomed, Ryan replied. Look at the Devourer ships. The alien vessels moved like a school of predatory fish, their formations fluid and organic. As the Council ships fell into their predicted patterns, the Devourer craft adjusted with unnerving precision. They know exactly what the Council's going to do, Kate realized. Every formation, every tactic, it's all in their memory from 3 centuries ago. What do we do? Ryan asked. Kate was already moving toward the pilot seat. We show them something they've never seen before. Kate, we can't fight those things. We're not going to fight them. Kate's hands flew over the controls, bringing the Endeavor to full power. We're going to confuse them. The plan was insane. Use the Endeavor's primitive but unpredictable technology to create false sensor readings, make the Devourer ships think they were facing more enemies than they actually were. Kate launched every probe, every beacon, every piece of detectable equipment the ship carried. To the Devourer's sensors, space suddenly filled with dozens of potential targets, all moving in patterns that violated every known tactical doctrine. "It's working!" Emily shouted. 3 of their ships are breaking formation, trying to engage ghost targets. But the world ship hadn't been fooled. Its massive bulk turned toward the Endeavor with terrifying purpose. "Kate," Ryan warned. She saw the energy build up the preparation for a weapon that could vaporize them in seconds. But Kate also saw something else the Council ship Harmony damaged, and drifting directly in the world ship's firing line. Kate didn't hesitate. The Endeavor shot forward, placing itself between the world ship and the Council vessel. Kate knew their primitive shields wouldn't stop the blast, but maybe they could absorb enough of it to save the 200 alien lives aboard the Harmony. "Contact all ships," Kate ordered. "Tell them." The world ship fired. Time seemed to slow as the energy beam lanced through space. Kate felt the Endeavor shudder as their shields overloaded instantly. Heat washed through the ship as hull plating began to vaporize. But something impossible happened. Instead of punching through the Endeavor and destroying the Harmony, the energy beam scattered. Kate's desperate maneuver had positioned them in the gravity shadow of Border Station 7 and the station's defensive fields, designed to protect against debris, not weapons, created a resonance effect with the Endeavor's failing shields. The world ship's blast dispersed harmlessly into space. Both ships survived, but the Endeavor was dying. Life support failed. Hull breaches vented atmosphere. Emergency power flickered and died. "Kate," Ryan struggled with the controls. "We need to evacuate." "No," Kate said quietly. "We need to finish this." She activated the ship's self-destruct, but not as a weapon. The Endeavor's primitive fusion reactor would create an electromagnetic pulse that would disrupt the Devourer ship's coordination for precious seconds. "Get to the escape pods," Kate ordered. "Not without you," Emily said stubbornly. "That's an order." "We don't take orders," Ryan said with a grim smile. "We're humans. We improvise." The 3 humans reached the escape pod just as the Endeavor detonated. The explosion wasn't large by stellar standards, but the electromagnetic pulse scrambled the Devourer fleet's coordination long enough for the Council ships to regroup and launch a coordinated counterattack. When reinforcements arrived 30 minutes later, they found the scout fleet destroyed and the world ship retreating into hyperspace. The first Devourer attack in 3 centuries had been repelled. In the aftermath, Kate floated in the escape pod's emergency atmosphere, watching through the tiny porthole as Council rescue ships approached. Her thoughts were interrupted by a transmission from Border Station 7. "This is Elder Vorin." The ancient voice carried new respect. "Admiral Hayes, your sacrifice has been recorded in the Council's archives. You have shown us something we had forgotten." "What's that?" Kate asked weakly. "That sometimes survival requires choosing what to save rather than what to preserve." The recovery took 3 days. During that time, Kate found herself in a medical bay filled with the wounded from both sides of the conflict Council officers, whose perfect formations had saved some lives, and humans whose chaotic improvisation had saved others. Remarkable bone density. Dr. Nevin, the station's chief medical officer, commented as he reviewed Kate's scans. His 6-armed form moved with practiced efficiency around the diagnostic equipment. "Your species shows adaptation patterns I've never seen." Kate winced as the medical scanner probed her injuries. "How so?" "Stress response. Most species show predictable patterns under combat pressure, faster reflexes, enhanced strength, improved focus. Humans show something else entirely. Dr. Nevin paused, his large eyes thoughtful. You show increased creativity. Is that significant? Unprecedented, Dr. Nevin replied. Under extreme stress, most beings fall back on training and instinct. You invent new solutions. The observation was more prescient than Kate realized. That evening, as she sat in the station's memorial garden, a space dedicated to those lost in service, she found herself surrounded by an unusual gathering. Tren was there, of course, but he'd brought others. Young beings from a dozen different species, all wearing the insignia of junior officers and academy cadets. Their expressions ranged from curiosity to awe. Is it true? Asked a crystalline female whose species Kate didn't recognize. Did you really sacrifice your ship to save enemies? Council officers aren't our enemies, Kate replied carefully, but they had just finished evaluating your species as primitive. Pressed another cadet, this one, from a species that resembled living metal. Why risk everything for those who dismissed you? Kate considered the question. Because dismissal isn't the same as hostility. And because... She paused, searching for the right words. Because that's who we choose to be. Tren leaned forward eagerly. Tell them about the wars. Kate raised an eyebrow. What wars? Earth's history. 15,000 conflicts in 500 years. The other species think it makes humans violent, but I've been studying your records. Tren's excitement was infectious. You don't fight because you're aggressive. You fight because you can't stand injustice. An uncomfortable silence fell over the group. Finally, the crystalline female spoke. My people have been at peace for 800 years. We have no wars, no conflicts, no violence. No growth either, Kate said gently. I've seen your technological development curve. Flat for 3 centuries. Peace requires stability, the metallic cadet argued. Change brings chaos. Change brings adaptation, Kate corrected. And adaptation brings survival. The discussion was interrupted by the arrival of Commander Velok, but his usual stern demeanor was absent. Admiral Hayes, forgive the intrusion. Elder Voren requests your presence in the strategic planning chamber. Kate looked at the gathered cadets. We'll continue this later. As she followed Velok through the station's corridors, she noticed something different. Aliens who had previously ignored her now nodded respectfully. Some even stopped their conversations to watch her pass. Word travels quickly on a space station, Velok observed. Your actions during the Devourer attack have generated discussion. What kind of discussion? Velok was quiet for a moment. The kind that makes senior officers nervous. The strategic planning chamber was a sphere of pure information, holographic displays, showing star charts, fleet positions, and tactical analyses. Elder Voren stood at the center, his 4 eyes tracking multiple data streams simultaneously. Admiral? Voren greeted her without looking away from the displays. How familiar are you with military history? Earth military history vary. Galactic military history I'm learning. Then observe. The displays shifted, showing historical battles dating back millennia. Every major conflict in galactic history followed patterns: escalation, confrontation, resolution, through superior force or technological advantage. Kate studied the patterns. They were remarkably consistent, almost formulaic. Now observe this. The display changed to show the recent Devourer attack. Your species' intervention followed no established pattern. The Devourer's tactical algorithms had no framework for analyzing your behavior. Is that good or bad? Voren finally looked at her directly. That depends on what happens next. Grand Counselor Serana has called for an emergency session of the full council. Your species' future in the galaxy will be decided. Kate felt a chill. And you think that's a problem? I think, Voren said carefully, that fear makes beings do predictable things. and predictability is exactly what the Devourer counts on. The full council session was unlike anything Kate had witnessed. The vast amphitheater contained representatives from all 300 member species, their voices creating a babel of languages that the translation system struggled to process. Grand Counselor Serana stood at the central podium, her silver form radiating authority. The recent incursion by hostile forces has highlighted critical gaps in our defensive strategies, she began. Analysis shows that unconventional tactics, while occasionally effective, introduce unacceptable variables into our coordinated response protocols. Kate felt her stomach sink. This wasn't going to be a celebration of their victory. Therefore, Serana continued, the Council proposes implementation of the containment protocol. The human species will be relocated to a designated sector, their technological development monitored and guided to ensure compatibility with established galactic standards. The amphitheater erupted in debate. Some voices supported the proposal, while others argued against it. But Kate noticed something interesting. The opposition came primarily from younger representatives, while support came from older, more established members. The humans saved Council lives. Tren's voice cut through the chaos. The young cadet had somehow gained access to the session floor. Their sacrifice protected the harmony. Their recklessness, Serana countered smoothly, endangered everyone present. Chaos is not strategy, young Tren. It is the absence of strategy. Elder Vorin rose slowly. The amphitheater fell silent out of respect for his age and wisdom. Counselor Serana speaks of chaos as if it were a disease, he said, his voice carrying clearly through the vast space. But I have lived long enough to remember when chaos was our salvation. Elder, surely you're not advocating for... I am advocating for survival, Vorin interrupted, showing more force than Kate had ever seen from him. The Devourer returns stronger than before because it has learned our patterns. Our perfect coordination has become our weakness. What would you have us do? Demanded another counselor. Abandon centuries of peaceful cooperation. I would have us learn from those who have survived 15,000 wars in 500 years, Vorin replied. I would have us ask ourselves why a species barely capable of interstellar travel was able to defeat an enemy that destroyed our finest ships. The debate continued for hours, but Kate could see the tide turning. Fear was winning over curiosity, control over adaptation. The containment protocol would pass, but as the session moved toward its inevitable conclusion, something unexpected happened. Tren stood up in the gallery reserved for junior staff. I request permission to address the council, he announced. Serana looked annoyed. This is highly irregular. Protocol 7 Alpha. Tren replied firmly. Any citizen may address the council on matters of species survival. Murmurs ran through the amphitheater. The protocol was ancient, rarely invoked, but legally binding. Very well, Serana said coldly. You have 3 minutes. Tren walked to the speaking platform with visible nervousness. When he reached the podium, he looked directly at Kate for a moment, drawing strength from her encouraging nod. Honorable counselors, he began, his young voice carrying surprising authority. I have spent my life studying our greatest achievements, our architectural marvels, our technological wonders, our perfect society. He paused. But I have also studied our failures. The amphitheater was completely silent now. 3 centuries ago, we faced extinction. The Devourer nearly consumed every world in the galaxy. We survived not through our individual strengths, but by combining the unique capabilities of every species in the Alliance. Tren's voice grew stronger. We won because we were different. The situation today is not analogous, Serana began. It is identical. Tren interrupted, showing remarkable courage. Except now we're all the same. We think the same thoughts, use the same tactics, make the same choices. We've become everything the Devourer expects us to be. He gestured toward Kate. The humans are different. They think differently, fight differently, solve problems differently. They are what we used to be before we chose safety over growth. Tren paused, his eyes sweeping the amphitheater. The Devourer is returning. It has learned our patterns, studied our responses, prepared for our strategies. But it has never encountered humans before. The young cadet took a deep breath. Honorable counselors, the question is not whether humans fit into our society. The question is whether our society can survive without them. The vote was close, 167 in favor of containment, 133 opposed. Humanity would be restricted to a designated sector, but the narrow margin revealed the galaxy dividing along generational lines. It's not over, Tren said afterward. The younger representatives are organizing the Adaptation Coalition. The human sector was at the Galactic Rim, 3 star systems far from Council core worlds. Kate stood on the bridge of New Horizon, watching their new home. Orders, Admiral, Mitchell asked. Begin settlements according to approved plans, but keep long-range sensors active. I want to know everything happening in our neighborhood. The Council prohibited military installations, Emily noted. I'm not building military installations, Kate smiled. I'm building research stations. Dr. Carter's facility was officially a cultural preservation center. In reality, it was humanity's most advanced intelligence analysis center. The Adaptation Coalition has members in 50 worlds now, Emily reported. They're sharing information about Devourer activity. Kate studied the holographic display. They're not randomly rating. Look at the target selection. Military installations, communication hubs, research facilities. They're systematically dismantling the Council's coordination ability. How long before they move on core worlds? Conservative estimate 6 months. Aggressive timeline 6 weeks. Elder Voron's message arrived via encrypted channel. Kate read it twice before believing it. They want us to help, she told assembled human leadership. After quarantining us, Mitchell's skepticism was evident. After the Devourer destroyed 3 core world defense stations in a day. So what does Voron want? The impossible. Defeat an enemy 3 centuries ahead, technologically commanding resources from half the galaxy that learns from every encounter. Sounds like Tuesday for humanity, Mitchell observed. There's more. He's not asking officially. If we help, we violate containment. The Council will disavow us. So if we win, they get credit. If we lose, we take blame. And if we refuse in 6 months, there might not be a Council left. The vote was unanimous. What's our plan? Mitchell asked. Kate activated a display showing communication networks. The Council fights the Devourer like a traditional enemy. But the Devourer is a hive mind. Every ship creature conquered world connects to central consciousness. The network is the threat. You want to confuse it. The Devourer's strength is perfect coordination, unified learning. But what if we make it face something with no logical pattern? Organized chaos, Kate corrected. We're going to teach the galaxy's most advanced civilizations to think like humans. Using Tren's coalition as cover, they infiltrated Council defense networks, introducing adaptive protocols, teaching alien commanders to break their own rules. Council officers have been trained for centuries to follow procedures. We need to rewire their thinking by giving them permission to fail, Kate explained. The first test came at Kepler Defense Station. Instead of standard protocol, the commander implemented defensive improvisation. Ships scattered randomly, each choosing targets independently. The Devourer found itself facing something unprecedented, a defense with no predictable pattern. The attack was repelled with minimal losses. Word spread through unofficial channels. Young officers began experimenting with tactical flexibility. Command structures loosened. Discipline is deteriorating. Serana announced during emergency session. Officers abandon procedures for reckless improvisation. Improvisation that's winning battles, Voron pointed out. But Kate knew something Serana didn't. The Devourer couldn't adapt to tactics with no underlying pattern. For the first time in 3 centuries, the galaxy's defenders were doing something unpredictable. The question now, Kate told her staff, is whether we can teach an entire civilization to think like humans before the Devourer brings its full force. How long do we have to teach 300 species to embrace chaos instead of order? Kate's smile was sharp. Not nearly long enough. The final assault began without warning. Across the galactic rim space tore as the full Devourer fleet emerged 17 world ships, each moon-sized, accompanied by thousands of smaller vessels. Kate stood in the command center on New Terra, watching displays showing the approaching catastrophe. "Fleet positions," she asked. 237 council vessels, 43 human ships, and over 400 vessels from member worlds operating under individual command authority. So instead of 300 species following one plan, we have 600 captains following 600 different plans. The Devourer hive mind must be having computational seizures, Mitchell observed. The first engagement took place in the Altair system. Council ships scattered into 5 independent groups, each following different doctrines. One group used traditional precision, another adopted human swarm tactics, a third implemented alien encirclement maneuvers. The 5th group, commanded by Captain Kess from the Adaptation Coalition, did something unprecedented. They asked their enemy to surrender. "We offer cultural exchange," Kess transmitted. "Instead of consuming our civilization, why not learn from it?" The Devourer ships paused seconds only, but noticed by every human monitoring. The response was immediate attack, but the hesitation disrupted coordination enough for a fighting retreat that saved 70% of the fleet. "It's working," Emily reported. "The Devourer's algorithms show increasing uncertainty, response times slowing, coordination less precise. But it won't last. Hive minds learn fast." "So what's the next phase?" Mitchell asked. "We stop trying to be unpredictable. The Devourer expects chaos now, so instead we give it something it will never expect from humans: perfect coordination." The plan was insane. Every ship in the Allied fleet would operate under a single tactical doctrine, not standardized formations, but something entirely new, a hybrid strategy combining best elements from every species. Xanthari patience with human aggression, Vrexian precision with Altarian improvisation, council coordination with independent initiative. "Impossible," declared Admiral Thorne. "No command structure could coordinate such diversity. No traditional structure. Every ship will have tactical autonomy within strategic parameters, organized chaos with a common goal." The concept was revolutionary: captains following principles instead of orders, maintaining fluid relationships instead of rigid formations, adapting in real time while remaining part of a greater whole. "It's never been tried," Thorne protested. "Exactly, which means the Devourer has no framework for understanding it." The final battle began in the Sanctuary system. The Devourer fleet emerged in perfect formation, a sphere of death with world ships at center. Against them rose the Allied fleet ships from hundreds of worlds, moving in patterns that seemed patternless. Each vessel followed its own path while somehow remaining part of a greater design. The Devourer's response was overwhelming. Energy beams that could crack planets lanced from world ships, while smaller vessels launched seeking swarms. The Allied fleet scattered not in retreat, but executing a plan no single mind could conceive. Ships dove through debris, climbed above orbital planes, flew directly toward world ships, trusting allies would create openings at precise moments. Impossibly, it worked. The Devourer fought not one enemy, but hundreds, each following different doctrines while pursuing the same objective. Every time the hive mind adapted to one approach, it faced 3 others. "Central world ship showing damage," Emily reported. But Kate watched smaller Devourer vessels moving in less coordinated patterns. They're improvising, learning to improvise, copying our tactics. It was ultimate irony in teaching the galaxy to think like humans humanity had taught their greatest enemy. The hive mind was fragmenting individual vessels, making independent decisions. "Is that good or bad?" Mitchell asked. Kate watched the battle become something unprecedented conflict where both sides learned and adapted in real time. "It's human," she said finally. The end came through pure human stubbornness. Dr. Emily Carter aboard science vessel Discovery penetrated the Central World ship's defenses, using 17 technologies never designed to work together. "It's beautiful," she transmitted. "The hive mind connects to every civilization they've absorbed. Millions of species, billions of minds, all linked. Emily, get out. Can't. Someone has to deliver the payload." The payload wasn't a weapon, it was a cultural virus. Every piece of human art, music, literature, philosophy compressed into a data stream designed not to destroy, but confuse the hive mind with beautiful contradictions of human thought. Initiating transmission. The effect was immediate and catastrophic for the Devourer. The hive mind, accustomed to logical information, suddenly found itself flooded with human culture. Poetry that made no sense but conveyed truth. Music with no pattern that moved souls. Stories about beings who chose love over logic, hope over pragmatism, sacrifice over survival. The Devourer fleet stopped entirely. For 17 minutes, the galaxy's most advanced hive mind processed complete human civilization and tried to understand why anyone would write songs about non-existent things, paint impossible landscapes, or tell stories where heroes lost everything but somehow won. When it came back online, something fundamental had changed. World ships began withdrawing not in defeat, but confusion. The Devourer had encountered something it couldn't absorb or destroy, the beautiful, inexplicable madness of beings who created meaning from chaos. "They're leaving," Mitchell reported, amazed. "Where? Everywhere and nowhere. The fleet is splitting up. Individual ships heading different directions." Kate understood. The hive mind hadn't been destroyed, it had been transformed. Exposed to human culture, it had learned to doubt, question, wonder. And doubt was the beginning of individual thought. The Devourer still existed, but was no longer unified. It had become what humanity made the galaxy: diverse, unpredictable, beautifully chaotic. 5 years later, Kate stood in the Hall of Alliance on New Terra, reading the inscription, "Here stands testament to the species that taught us chaos, could be strategic difference, could be strength, and sacrifice could transform the weak into mighty. Humanity's smallest in stature, fiercest in spirit, most dangerous in their stubborn refusal to accept the impossible." Elder Voren, now first counselor, joined her. "Do you ever wonder what would have happened if we had listened to your first warning?" Kate asked. "I think the galaxy would have learned to fear humans rather than learn from them. Sometimes the greatest gifts come wrapped in the greatest challenges." Through the hall's windows, Kate saw ships from hundreds of worlds, each following its own path while remaining part of something larger. The galaxy had learned humanity's greatest lesson. Chaos and order weren't opposites, but partners in the endless dance of survival and growth. The elders had been right to warn about humans. They were dangerous. But their danger lay not in conquest or destruction, but in their ability to make others dangerous, too dangerous to tyranny, to stagnation, to comfortable certainties masquerading as wisdom. The galaxy would never be the same, and that was exactly as it should be. The universe is vast and full of wonders we've yet to imagine. If stories like this spark something in you, that sense of possibility, that belief that ordinary beings can achieve extraordinary things, then share that spark. Subscribe for more SciFi stories that explore what it means to be human among the stars. Comment with your thoughts on humanity's greatest strength And hit that like button if you believe that sometimes the most dangerous thing you can do is refuse to give up. The stars are waiting, and the next chapter of our cosmic story begins with dreamers like you.